And of course, I wasn't paying any attention to him, and he was like, "Mom!" I mean, he literally yelled. And I was like, "What?" Hi guys, it's Miss Mary here. We're just doing life. I was thinking about so many things have transpired in the 31 years since I've been married this second time. And I was thinking on when my husband and I, Harvey, came together, and I had the 4 children. He had 2, but his was grown. I remember him saying, "Let's buy robes for the boys as well as the girls." And when we had a house built, and so we merged into the house together, because I was living in my place, he was living in his place, and we brought it together. And when we brought it together, he was like, so we need to establish some boundaries, and we need to establish some type of rules. And so one of the rules was, he was saying that we will respect each other. And one of those ways that we all will respect each other is no one will come to the dinner table half naked. No one, even the guys, was not allowed to come to the table with their shirt off. You know, the girls, you know, bought robes and stuff like that. So when you're passing through the bathroom, you will make sure you're covered at all times. And those were just rules that you established because, you know, even if he was their biological father, you still want to establish those boundaries of saying, you know, we keep ourselves covered up. When you're coming out of the shower, you know, you have your robe on, or, you know, you don't dart through one door, you know, with your panties on and stuff like that. You be respectful. And I think sometimes when you're merging a family together, there has to be a level of trust, but yet and still you have to set boundaries with things, you know. Now, this is real personal, and don't come for me, because I know everybody have their own opinion about it, you know. But for me, when my husband and I got married and I had 4 children, because I trusted my husband financially to take care of the children, then I trusted him to be a disciplinary. Now, granted, let's be real here. We're not talking about no beatings with belts and beating kids and all this kind of stuff. But I'm saying, like, you're grounded. You can't go to your friend's house. You know, the one thing that I found out was, and my husband had said this because my husband's a little older, so he had a lot of wisdom. And he was saying, the one thing is, Mary, you and I have to be on the same page. Because one thing about kids, they will divide and conquer. They will divide and conquer. So we always had to make sure we was on the same page. Even when we didn't agree with the disciplinary, or we didn't agree with maybe something that was being said, him and I took it to the bedroom. We never got into it or discussed it openly in front of the kids. Like if one of my kids did something and he said, "Okay, that's it, you're grounded for 2 weeks," I wouldn't say, "Oh, wait, oh, no, that's not right. I don't think that's right." If I disagree with the decision that he made in front of the children, we would take it to the bedroom or discuss it later on. And then he can always come back and retract it and say, "Okay, it's not going to be 2 weeks, it's going to be a week. Because maybe I don't feel like the punishment fits the crime," you know. So we had to learn how to communicate, and not in front of the children. We didn't, if the kids said something, or if we didn't disagreed about something, him and I had to be on the same page. Even if I didn't agree with what my husband was saying, I never disagreed with him in front of the children. And he never disagreed with me in front of the children. Because all the kids want to know is that y'all ain't on the same page. Now, did this take some practice and some patience and biting of the tongue? Yes, it did. It took me, from one thing I think for me, remember I had been divorced for 3 years before I married Harvey. And before that I was in an abusive relationship. So it was hard for me to see somebody else discipline my children. Number one, I had great kids. Not bragging, but I did. I had great kids. And the reason why I had such great kids is because I had 4. So I didn't have time to say things 2, 3 times. I just couldn't. You know, because by the time I tell you to sit down, there's another one over there. I got to tell him to do something else. Go wash your hands or something. So I couldn't repeat myself. But I had to get used to, and sometimes as a single mom, it takes a lot to get used to somebody else telling your child. That hurts. It really bothered me to watch somebody else tell my child what to do, you know, because you're so used to being in control of all of that. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing like if your mom does it, or your sister does it, or your brother does it, you know, because you can always jump in and say, you ain't telling my daughter or my son to do that. If it's your brother or your sister, you can always rescind it. You know what I'm saying? But when it's your husband, whom you coming together and you're trying to raise these kids together, you know, I can remember one time when I was talking about rescinding, and it's so hard. I remember one time I took my kids to Lansing, and we was at my aunt and uncle's house, and my son, the baby boy, he was talking, and of course I wasn't paying any attention to him, and he was like, "Mom!" I mean, he literally yelled, and I was like, "What?" And my uncle came in the room, and he was my uncle who helped raise me, and he said, "You better get that boy under control. Listen to the way he's talking to you. You ain't gonna be able to do anything. He's gonna run all over you." And right away I said, "Why are you yelling?" And he said, "Mom, if I don't yell, you won't hear me." So the lesson that I'm trying to tell you in that is, never discipline your children to please somebody else. Never ever let somebody tell you what you should do to your children. Never discipline your children to please somebody else. Because once I asked him, "Why are you yelling?" He was not yelling because he was trying to run over me or take control. He was yelling because he was the baby of 4 children. And he knew he had to yell to get to be heard. He had to yell to be heard. So once I said to him, "You don't have to yell. Mommy hears you." He goes, "No, you don't hear me, Mom. That's why I yell." So that taught me, you know. So the thing I'm saying when it comes to discipline, never discipline your children to please somebody else. Away with the day, back in the day when people used to, basically, I can remember as a child how with a lot of the older people, basically that's how they showed their strength, by how they discipline their kids. "Get in here, sit down, do this, do that." You know what I mean? Those days are over, you know, and we have to know how to discipline our children. I thank God that my children, they were the kind I could talk to, or I had this look that I would give my kids, you know, that they would know that they would be in trouble. So always try to hear your kids and hear what's going on. When it comes to discipline, you have to trust their spouse that they're going to make the right decision. I mean, I grew up in a household where the men don't discipline the girls anyway. If they leave that to the female to do it, you know. But another thing I can remember, another time when I'm talking about discipline, this happened when I was divorced and I was by myself. This was one of my girls. And I'm trying not to distinguish between them, but anyway, I remember she had done something wrong. I can't remember what it was, but she knew that she was in trouble, and she went and she hid under the bed. And she got so far under the bed, I got down there and I was trying to reach and grab her because I was going to get her. but I couldn't get her because she was real little and she had pushed herself all the way back, and I had a hard time trying to get her from underneath the bed. And the beds were bunk beds, so I couldn't slide the bed off the wall and get behind there and get her. So I remember so clearly that God said, she doesn't need what you're trying to give her. She needs a hug. And so when she finally came from underneath the bed, took a couple hours, when she finally came out, then I just hugged her and was trying to figure out what's going on. So sometimes, you'll have one thing in your mind that you want to do, like, oh, I'm going to ground them and they're going to get in trouble for this or they're going to get in trouble for that. Sometimes be sensitive, be sensitive to what is going on with your kids. You don't know, just like we have bad days, they have bad days too. They have bad days at school. Maybe they've been bullied. Maybe they've been pushed around. Maybe they feel the teacher don't like them, But sometimes we just have to stop and take a moment, And I had to learn this, and I had to teach my husband this too. Like, my kids are pretty good kids. They will respond to you. You don't have to bring down the wrath of God to get my kids to respond. But just knowing that I trusted him financially, so I trusted him when it came to being able to be the disciplinary with my children, So we have to learn. It's this, when you merge two families together and you come together and you have kids, there's such a learning curve. There's so many things that you've got to weather through. It is like, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack, trying to bring this marriage together, trying to raise these children together, and trying to be respectful of each other, respectful of each other's feelings and emotions. It's a lot. But I'm here 31 years later to say it can be done. It can be done through communication, love, and respect. But you have to have communication and you have to have love and respect. Respect your husband enough that you don't tell him off in front of the kids. Respect your husband enough that you don't rescind what he says. Like when I would get home and my husband told me, oh, so-and-so is grounded for 2 days. I wouldn't say anything in front of the child. I would wait and we'll take it in the bedroom. Well, what happened? Tell me what happened. And if I didn't agree with that he should be punished for 2 days, I would definitely let my husband know that, But I think the thing of it is, it's just learning to work together. And the thing of it is, too, your team, this, you don't want it to be a house that's divided. You're coming together as a team to work together, to build together, and to create a unity in this house. So that's just my 2 cents. This is Miss Mary. Don't forget, like, subscribe, and share. This is Miss Mary. Don't forget, like, subscribe, and share.